I've gone 10 days now without a migraine. What's going on? Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. And then boom. Hi there, welcome to the Healing Migraines Naturally podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Leslie Caesar, and I am a naturopathic doctor who works with women all over the United States who have chronic migraines and want to stop getting chronic migraines without adding new medication and without taking a fistful of supplements. I used to be a chronic migraine sufferer myself, and that's the reason why I became a naturopathic doctor, actually, because of my own healing journey and health transformation that I experienced. Because I didn't want to take medications and so on for my migraines, I just intuitively knew that if someone could help me identify the root cause of what was going on and could guide me to take the right steps, I intuitively knew that I could feel better, and that's exactly what happened. And that whole journey inspired me to become a naturopathic doctor myself and help other women. Today's title is Help! I haven't had a migraine in 10 days, and now I got one. What did I do wrong? Does this sound familiar at all? You have been trying to take some steps to improve your health. You've maybe tidied up your diet, started eating a little bit better, started eating more consistently, started working on your bedtime routine, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, not spending an hour in the evening scrolling through your phone and so on, kind of getting to bed on time. You've been working on a stress reduction or managing your stress or dealing with stress in a more positive way. And lo and behold, you started feeling a little bit better. And what do you know? Instead of 3 migraines this week, I actually didn't have any this week. And, okay, week 2, wow. Day 10, migraine, right? The migraine comes on. And then what does our mind do? Oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? I'm doomed. Every time I try to do the right thing, it doesn't work for me. How come nobody else has this? So I want to talk through what's going on here on the podcast this week. And it was top of mind because this week, one of my clients developed a long stretch between migraine flares, right? Which has been great. A client that I started working with about 2 months ago, I will call her Shannon. She, when we started working together, has daily head pain, okay? Near daily migraine, okay? So about half of my clients have daily head pain to some degree, right? So most people who have daily head pain, on most days it's a lower level, maybe under, a 4 or 5 is kind of what their baseline is. But then on top of that, they spike full-blown migraine flares on top of that sort of lower level daily head pain, right? So if sort of your daily baseline is like a 3 or 4, that's what you're dealing with all the time, then maybe 3-4 times a week, on top of that, you're spiking more of a full-blown migraine that might be a, 6, 7, 8, 9 level. And then maybe once or twice a month, you're going to like a full-blown 10 out of 10 level on top of that. So my client was this is what she was dealing with. So she was dealing with, daily head pain at a lower level and then spiking migraines nearly daily on top of that. So she was taking Excedrin just about every day, okay, when we started. And Excedrin is a medication that when you take it daily, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to get into a rebound headache or rebound migraine phenomenon. We've done some podcasts on this topic. I have a free training on this topic. We'll link to that in the show notes here. But Excedrin, it even says on the bottle, like, don't take this longer. I forget if it says 10 or 14 days, right? It tells you on the bottle, like, don't take this longer than recommended. And that is because there's a high likelihood of that medication putting you into a rebound state. So when we started working together and we did her migraine map at the beginning, I was concerned that she was in an Excedrin rebound state. I will say that she was so motivated when we started working together that she really cut back on her Excedrin intake and white-knuckled her way a little bit to come off of that Excedrin. So fairly quickly, she got out of that daily or near daily Excedrin cycle. But like I say, she did that just because she was comfortable with sort of white knuckling it a little bit through that. Normally, I don't have people white knuckle through a rebound medication withdrawal. Okay. But she was willing to do that. And so she was able to reduce her Excedrin intake quite a bit. And then she was just, like I say, just kind of white knuckling her way through these flares. But this week, when we had our weekly appointment, she had gone more than a week without a migraine. And the head pain, the daily head pain that she was having was very minimal. As she said, very manageable. I might feel a little bit of head pain, but it's like, maybe a 1 or something. It's really not troublesome. It's really not interfering with what I want to do. And, I'm sure a lot of you can relate. After you've had that level of head pain for so long and you go down to a 1, it feels like a vacation, right? Hi there, it's Dr. Leslie. If you're a woman having 8 or more migraine days a month, let's talk. I'll show you how to drop them to near 0 in 90 days without adding more medication. In fact, you can even lower or maybe even completely wean off of your medication within 90 days and without agonizing cold turkey withdrawals. Let me tell you about my client Judy. She was on such strong medications for her migraines that she was nearly bedridden and could barely function. She had to close the doors of her small business and felt like a failure. She wondered every day, why am I doomed to suffer from these migraines? But just like you, she started listening to my Healing Migraines Naturally podcast, and a spark ignited. She knew that if she could just figure out why these migraines started in the first place, she could restore and recover her health again. So she booked her free consult call with me, and the rest is history. She now goes months between migraines and runs her small business full-time again because she's completely off of those preventative medications. She followed the 12-week plan and got incredible results. I've worked with women just like Judy from all over the United States overcome migraines naturally. So if you're serious about healing your migraines, then tap the link in the description and book a free consult call with me, just like Judy did. We do cap new clients monthly, so if the calendar's full, the doors are closed for now, so don't wait to reclaim the life you deserve to live. No matter how hopeless things seem now, with expert guidance, you can heal and recover from migraines. So I look forward to chatting with you. Click the link now to schedule your call. So when we got on the phone this week, she was so excited. You could just hear it in her voice. She was so excited because she had not had a migraine in over a week. And so what she was on like a stretch now between migraine flares. Then I knew that I needed to give her the speech that I give to my clients when this occurs, right? So when I'm working with my clients, what I expect to happen is what happened in her case, right? So we're going from, 3 to 4 migraines a week on top of this baseline daily head pain, which for a non-migraine sufferer, if they have like a 3 to 4 level pain headache, they're like in bed, right? They're complaining. Everybody knows about it, right? But not my client, right? Like her baseline, she had adapted to that, right? So what I'm expecting as the body starts to heal itself, right? Because when we started working together, we had done her migraine map and we had identified what were the blockers or the missing pieces that her body needed in order to do what it's designed to do, which is restore itself back to health. And when we're in a state of health, our body doesn't generate symptoms like migraines. Okay, so what I'm expecting when we put that game plan in place and we're giving the body what it needs and then it starts doing what it's designed to do, I'm expecting that 3 or 4 migraines a week is going to go down to 2 migraines a week. It's going to go down to 1 migraine a week. It's going to go, we got 10 days here and we haven't had a migraine. And I'm expecting that baseline head pain, if somebody's in, daily head pain, I'm expecting that baseline level of head pain to start to decrease as well. And so this is exactly what happened. And so there's another phenomenon here that happens within our mind, okay? And because I have gone through this personally in my own recovery process, and this happens all the time when people are actually restoring their health and their body is starting to recover, this mental phenomenon occurs. So I want to walk you through this, okay? So I'm going to pull up a little graphic here and walk through it with you, okay? What you're seeing here is two different graphs, okay? So one graph is sort of like that 45-degree line, right? And the other graph is more of a zigzag. So let me walk you through here. So the graph on the left, sort of this 45-degree line, just really nice, easy upward slope. This is what we think is going to happen when our body starts healing. Okay, so on the left side of the graph, right, we've got a low level, right? That's us not feeling very well, right? So, okay, we're not feeling that good, but next week I feel a little bit better. Next week I feel a little bit better. And then again and again, right? So this is what we think is going to happen when we start to give our body what it needs and it starts doing what it's designed to do. And, every week is going to be better than the next week. That's what we expect is going to happen. We think that the healing process is this sort of like 45-degree angle. Every week is better than the next. Every day I'm just a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And if only that were the case, it is not the case. What actually happens in the vast majority of cases, okay? What actually happens is we have sort of fits and starts, okay? So as we initially give our body what it needs, we might start feeling, oh, wow, yeah, I can feel it, right? And we'll feel that pretty quickly. Okay, but then maybe next week, this week I didn't feel as good as last week. It was a little, my heartburn was a little worse this week, or my head pain was a little worse this week. What's going on? Because last week it was a little bit better. Oh, wait a minute. Next week, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better, huh? Well, this is great. Now I'm back on the right path, right? Now next week, I don't feel so good. I feel a little bit worse. So we zigzag our way back to health. And this is something that's very, very important to understand. And so what I told Shannon this week is this little soapbox speech that I give my clients. I told her something that she did not want to hear. And what I told her is, you are going to get another migraine. And she was so excited. When I got on the phone with her this week, I could hear it in her voice. She was so excited. She was so upbeat. She was just beaming. And then I told her, you are going to get another migraine. And this was not what she wanted to hear, okay? I told her, I hope I live long enough to get another migraine, okay? She and I are both prone to migraines. And when our body falls out of a state of health, this is a symptom pattern that both of us are prone to. And so, I hope, like I say, I hope I live long enough to get a little tipped out of balance to get another migraine, right? I hope that's in my future. I hope I live long enough for that. So she kind of chuckled a little bit, but I wanted her to really understand that even though she has experienced this tremendous milestone, and it was a milestone that we were both looking for, she is going to get another migraine because we don't heal in a straight 45-degree line. We zigzag our way back to health. And so there are 4 things that we're actually looking for to validate whether or not we are moving towards health and we have the right plan in place to give her body what it needs. And this is to piggyback on a podcast that I did a few weeks ago where I talked about the difference between suppressing a symptom with a medication and not feeling the symptom versus actually improving our health so that our body is not generating that symptom. Okay. So this is sort of like a little bit of a part 2, more specific to the migraine phenomenon that we talked about a few weeks ago. Okay. So let me review with you the 4 things that we're looking for and how this plays out in real life. So there are 4 areas of improvement that we're looking for. Okay, so number 1, frequency. Number 2, severity. Number 3, duration. And number 4, medication response. Okay, so let's go into these in more detail. So with frequency, this is the frequency of the migraine flares. Okay, so if I'm getting a migraine flare of 2 or 3 times a week, an improvement in the frequency would mean, okay, I only got 1 migraine flare this week. Right? I didn't have a migraine for 10 days, right? I didn't have a migraine for 3 weeks. The frequency of the flare itself is becoming better and better. There's longer and longer periods of time between the migraine flares. That means that the frequency of the migraine flares is improving. And so in Shannon's case here, we have an improvement in the frequency of the migraines. She would have flaring migraines 2-3 times a week. Now we haven't had one for 10 days. Okay, so that's an improvement in the frequency of her flares. The second area is severity. Okay, so again, if, when I get a migraine, if it's typically like a 7 out of 10 level and I'm, dry heaving, vomiting, and I'm, bedridden for the entire day, that's a very high severity of a migraine flare. But as my health is improving, as I'm giving my body what it needs, the severity of those symptoms starts to decrease or starts to improve. So instead of, dry heaving for a half hour, I was nauseous, but I actually didn't dry heave at all. That hasn't happened in years, right? Or, I went into a flare, but it never got so bad that I had to go to bed. I was able to drive my daughter to, her soccer game. I was able to, do some of the chores around the house. It wasn't fun, but I wasn't bedridden, right? The severity wasn't that high. So we're looking for an improvement in the severity, right? People can go into a migraine flare and it can even be like a mild migraine flare, right? It's like, it was a migraine, it was the right side of my head was really pounding and I felt pretty foggy, but, I made it through the work day. I didn't have to leave work early. The severity, it wasn't pleasant, but it definitely was a lot milder than me dry heaving and, having to lay in a dark room with eye mask on, right? So we're looking for an improvement in the severity of the symptoms themselves. Number 3, duration of the flare, okay? So particularly for most people, when they start getting migraines, they'll go into a migraine flare, but the duration of the flare might only be a few hours, right? And then as the migraines become more and more severe and more chronic, the duration of the migraine flare becomes longer and longer, right? So what used to be, 2-3 hours and then, okay, I'd lay down and rest a little bit and then I'd be up and at 'em again is, oh boy, that, I was out of it from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Finally around in the late afternoon, early evening, I started feeling better versus now I've got a migraine. Once I get into that flare, I'm probably going to be feeling it for 3 days. I'm going to be battling this thing for 3 days, right? So, that's the, kind of a typical progression as the migraines get worse and worse. The duration of the flare gets longer and longer. Part of this can include what we call like the migraine hangover, right? Or that feeling of I got hit by a bus, right? So I'm not really experiencing like the migraine. The flare has remitted, but oh man, I'm still foggy. I'm tired. I'm not 100%, right? So that can be part of the duration too. So somebody might be in a full-blown migraine for 2 days, but then they've got that third day where they're real foggy and they feel like they've been hit by a bus. So we want to see that improve. Okay, so again, if you've gotten to the point where when you go into a migraine, it's 3 days, right? I know I'm going to have this for 3 days. It's quite a thing to go into a flare and then you are experiencing, right, that for 1 day, and then day 2 you wake up and you're like, whoa, okay, I feel like I'm back to myself again, right? You don't have that hit by a bus feeling. What if you went into a migraine and you only had it for 2-3 hours and you could just lay down a little bit or rest a little bit and then boom, bounce back up? So that's an improvement in the duration of the flare. And then number 4, we're looking for an improvement in the medication response. Okay, so again, for most people, when they first start getting migraines, usually they take something like Advil or Motrin or Aleve, something over the counter, right? And usually it works reasonably well for people, but as the migraines progress and become more and more chronic, that Advil isn't cutting it anymore, right? And so we're getting the prescription abortives, right? And again, the first time people take something like Imitrex, usually it works reasonably well, right? Imitrex is supposed to work within about an hour. And usually when people, take that first triptan dose, that first Imitrex, usually it works within that time frame. But over time, as we suppress the symptoms and the body fights that suppression, the medication becomes less and less effective at suppressing the symptoms. So if you want more information on this, again, we've done several podcasts on this. I have a free training on this phenomenon. We'll link to those in the description. We want to see an improvement in this, right? So, what I hear over and over again from my clients is, yeah, I went into a flare on Saturday and I took my Imitrex, and within 45 minutes, I was like, wow, I don't feel anything. I'm feeling good. That hasn't happened to me in years, right? So that's an improvement in the medication response. These are the 4 specific parameters that I'm looking for to improve with my clients regarding their migraines, right? There are other parameters that I'm looking for improvement in their other symptoms, and we talked about that on the podcast that we did a few weeks ago. But this is specific. There were specific areas of improvement relative to the migraines. So this is very important to understand that this is what you should be looking for, okay? And probably nobody has gone over this with you before, okay? Because when we go in to our neurologist and we get that prescription abortive medication, it's sort of like, well, does it work or does it not, right? Like there's no sort of subtle analysis to that. It's like, here's your prescription for your Nurtec or your Imitrex, and if it doesn't work, call the nurse, right? And we'll try another prescription, right? You're not really being guided in any way, or there's really no serious evaluation. And, it's sort of like, well, we'll start with this medication, and if we don't like how it works, we'll just try another one, right? It's not really very systematic or very guided. And when you go to a natural practitioner, right, like a naturopathic doctor or a chiropractor or a functional medicine doctor, they also will kind of give you a fistful of supplements to take. And it's sort of like, well, come back in 4 to 6 weeks and let me know how you're doing, right? There's, if the practitioner really doesn't understand migraines, they're not going to really understand this phenomenon You have to understand how the migraines get worse over time to really understand what to look for as the migraines are improving. And so most natural practitioners, they're following more sort of like protocols and so on. And so they're kind of giving you their protocol, and it's like, well, come back in 4 to 6 weeks and let me know how you did. So if that had been done with my client, Shannon, what would have happened to her, right? So she would have, say, implemented the protocol, right? And let's say it was a reasonably good fit for her, okay? And so she started feeling better. And so she's, doing what she was told to do, following the handouts, taking the fistful of supplements. Oh my goodness, my daily head pain is a little bit better. Oh, I haven't had a migraine today, next day. Oh my goodness, I went 10 days without a migraine. Oh, this is working. This is fantastic. And then boom, she gets a migraine, right? So what is she going to think at that point in time? She's going to think what we all think, right? Oh my goodness, I'm doomed. I'm defective. Here I got my hopes up again. Nothing works for me. I can't believe I spent my money on this. What did I do wrong? I thought I followed everything, right? She might start scrutinizing. Did I miss something on a handout? Blaming herself. It's a whole mental, doom and gloom. A whole catastrophe occurs. But no one is actually assessing her and pointing out the fact that she went from 2 to 3 migraines a week and a 3-4 baseline level daily head pain to a level 1 daily head pain and didn't have a migraine for 10 days, right? So let's look at those 4 areas of improvement. So has the frequency improved? Oh yeah, big time, right? There's a huge difference between 3 to 4 migraines a week and 1 migraine every 10 days. You're talking 3 migraines a month versus, 12 migraines a month. That's a significant difference. Is the severity better? Absolutely. Her daily baseline is very mild, and prior to this long 10-day streak that she was on, already the severity of her migraine flares was better, right? She just didn't go from, again, let me give you a little bit more detail here. As she hit this 10 days, her frequency was already starting to elongate, right? And the severity was already starting to decline when she went into a flare. So the severity of the flares have already started to respond. The duration of the flare, right? So if she normally has a 3-day migraine and now after 10 days she has a migraine, but it only lasts 1 day, again, that's a huge improvement in the actual length of time that somebody's in a migraine state or struggling with that high level of head pain, right? And then the medication response. Shannon isn't particularly taking any medication, but again, it's a big difference if you take an Imitrex and, oh yeah, that took like 3-4 hours to kick in and like barely, to, oh my goodness, what's going on? I took an Imitrex and I'm actually up and at 'em an hour later, right? So the medication response is better. People can be experiencing an improvement in their migraines and not realize it, right? Because again, we think that when we are restoring our health, every day is going to be better than the next. Every week is going to be better than the next. It's just a 45-degree line up to 100%, and that's not what happens. We will feel better, and then we're going to take a dip. And then we're going to feel better again, and we're going to take a dip. The best case scenario is you could conceive of those dips as a little migraine flare, right? But other symptoms are going to improve and then maybe get a little worse again and then improve again. But what we lose track of is as we're sort of oscillating our way back up to health, when we feel a little bit better and then we take a little dip, our mind doesn't say, oh yeah, I don't feel as good as I did yesterday, but I still feel better than I felt 3 weeks ago. That's for sure. Our mind does not make that realization, not at all. Our mind goes, oh my goodness, what's going on? I don't feel as good as I felt yesterday. I'm doomed. I'm defective. Nothing works for me, right? Our mind doesn't sit there and go, oh yeah, this is still good. I'm still doing better. Our mind usually doesn't do that. But when we start to take a little dip, the dip doesn't just take us back to zero, right? We're taking a little dip. We're still ahead of the game. And that's how we actually get ourselves back into a state of health. And this is very important for people to realize, because if you don't realize this and you go through a flare, you could throw in the towel. Because if I'm doomed and defective and nothing works for me and there's something genetically, right? There's just something genetically wrong with me that I have these migraines and everything I try doesn't work for me. If I don't understand that this migraine in the context of those 4 other areas of improvement, that I'm actually making progress, then I can throw in the towel. Why wouldn't I? Right? If I'm doomed and defective and there's something genetically wrong with me, why would I take any action to do anything to improve my health and stop getting migraines? That would be irrational, right? So we have to understand this so that we don't allow our mind to psych us out and then we throw the towel in. And then if we throw in the towel, we're not going to feel better, right? Because we do have to take action to restore our health. So if we're not going to take those actions, we're not going to be able to restore our health. And so it's very critical that we protect our mindset. Our mind is going to do this when we go into a flare. Our mind is going to sort of play this script every time. I'm doomed. I'm defective. Nothing works for me. What did I do wrong? My mind has done that to me, and it does it to nearly all of my clients. But because I'm working with them and guiding them, I can support them through that so that they don't throw the towel in, so that we come out of the flare, we can evaluate, and we want to actually evaluate this using data, right? So again, if we're moving towards health, we're going to see improvement in those 4 areas. If something isn't dialed in properly, we're not seeing improvement in those 4 areas, right? So we have to be guided by the actual data. And if the data is telling us, okay, wait a minute here, the severity, it was getting better, but now it's getting worse again. The frequency was getting better, but now the frequency is getting worse again. What are the other symptoms of the body doing as well? Because it's, we're more than just our migraines. We're a very, complex organism. So what are the other symptoms showing us as well? Taking all of that into consideration to evaluate, okay, are we actually, are we just having a little downtick here and we're going to have another upswing? Or do we have an upswing but something isn't dialed in right and now we're kind of arcing back down again? This is very important to evaluate. And you, as just a lay person, it's going to be very difficult for you to make this evaluation, right? I have years of experience working just with women with migraines. And so I have, honed my experience over the years of working with hundreds of women and seeing these things recur, seeing these patterns play out, so that I can do my best to evaluate, okay, what does this flare mean? Is this just part of the healing process, or do we need to get something dialed in better? So I went through all of this with Shannon this week, and I reassured her that no matter what happens, it's still a win for her because she's gone 10 days without a migraine, right? Again, 3 to 4 a week to 1 every 10 days is a tremendous improvement. It's a tremendous win. To go from a baseline severity of 3 to 4 to a 1, it's a tremendous win. So when that flare hits, you've already won. You've already won. Okay, yep, we're going to set the counter back to day 1 again, right? Now the question is, can we go longer than 10 days? This is where it gets really fun and exciting, right? All right, I had a 10-day stretch. How long can the next one be? Let's see, right? Can I go, again, even if I have a 10-day stretch and then maybe I only get to 7 days next time? It's still an overall improvement, right? And what are the other symptoms? Am I sleeping better? Is my heartburn better? Is my digestion better? Is my Raynaud's, have I not had a Raynaud's flare, even though we've had a big cold spell and early snow? All of these other factors, right? So even, going 10 days between a migraine flare and then maybe, next one was 7, but, I didn't get a Raynaud's flare. I've reintroduced 3 foods that I haven't eaten in a couple years because I was afraid I was going to get a migraine if I ate them. I'm sleeping better, right? I'm more resilient in the face of that coworker that just gets on my last nerve every time. You know what? I wasn't so irritated with her this week, right? All of these things, like, okay, even if we only had a 7-day stretch between flares, it still could be a win. It still could be a win in the context of all of the other symptoms, right? So this is where we have to be very careful that we're evaluating things within the proper context. We know what we're looking for, and we are maintaining a little bit of control and discipline over what our mind is telling us, because our mind is never going to say these things to us, right? Our mind very rarely is going to sit there in the middle of a migraine flare and go, oh, well, but this is a positive, this is a good thing. Like, that's not where our mind is going to go. So we have to, like I say, really understand this. And at the beginning, having someone like myself do that evaluation for you and give you that assessment is very helpful, because until you have, more and more experience of what it feels like to have a body that's not generating migraines all the time, right, it's going to be hard for you to make that evaluation. So I hope this was enlightening for you, and I hope it was interesting for you. Let me know in the comments if you have experienced this phenomenon of that worsening over time, and then when you've tried to take steps, feeling a little bit better, but then getting derailed by a flare. Let me know if that is something that you've experienced in the past in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Help us grow by doing that, and also you won't miss out on new episodes. So thanks for joining me today, and look forward to seeing you in the future.